Bumpy Johnson sat across from three city inspectors who'd just condemned 42 buildings in Harlem, prime real estate, homes to 600 families. The inspectors had badges, legal documents, and the full weight of City Hall behind them. They expected Bumpy to threaten them, maybe pull his razor, give them an excuse to bring in the police and bulldozers. Instead, Bumpy opened a manila folder and slid 3 photographs across the table. The head inspector, Thomas Whitmore, picked up the first photo. His face went from smug to pale in 2 seconds flat. And the 9 words Bumpy said next made Whitmore realize he hadn't come to condemn buildings in Harlem. He'd walked into a trap that had been set 3 months ago. What nobody knew was that Bumpy Johnson had been waiting for this exact moment since January. Because Bumpy Johnson didn't react to threats. He predicted them, prepared for them, and turned them into opportunities. And what happened in that room on April 15th, 1949, didn't just save 600 families from losing their homes. It exposed the biggest real estate fraud in New York City history and proved something the politicians always forgot. You don't outsmart the King of Harlem. To understand what happened that April afternoon, you need to understand what New York City was doing to black neighborhoods in 1949. They called it urban renewal. Clean up the slums, modernize the city, build better housing. It sounded noble. It sounded progressive. It was theft. Here's how it worked. City inspectors would declare buildings structurally unsound or health hazards. The city would condemn them, force residents out, and sell the land to developers at pennies on the dollar. Those developers, coincidentally, were always connected to politicians, always white, and always got rich while black families got displaced to even worse housing in the Bronx or Brooklyn. Bumpy had watched it happen in Brooklyn's Bedford-Stuyvesant neighborhood, watched entire blocks of black-owned homes condemned and replaced with luxury apartments that no one from the original neighborhood could afford. Now they were coming for Harlem, and Bumpy Johnson took that personally, because Harlem wasn't just territory to Bumpy, it was family. He'd paid medical bills for people on those blocks, kept kids out of jail, made sure elderly residents had heat in winter. He knew every family, every story, every struggle. And he'd be damned if some bureaucrat with a clipboard was going to erase them for a paycheck. January 1949. Bumpy was having dinner at Wells Restaurant when his contact in the buildings department, a clerk named Eugene Porter, slipped him an envelope under the table. Eugene was one of dozens of city employees on Bumpy's payroll. Not for criminal activity, for information. Eugene had copied internal memos, inspection schedules, and correspondence between the buildings department and a development company called Riverside Construction. Bumpy read the documents that night in his office above Small's Paradise. His jaw tightened with every page. Riverside Construction had already purchased 42 lots in Harlem, anticipating the condemnations. The buildings hadn't even been inspected yet, but Riverside knew exactly which addresses would be declared uninhabitable. The fix was in. The inspectors were corrupt, and the timeline showed everything would happen in April. Bumpy could have gone to the newspapers, could have tried to expose it publicly, but newspapers didn't care about Harlem getting robbed. They'd run a small story on page 12, and the politicians would deny everything. No, Bumpy needed proof that couldn't be denied. Proof that would destroy everyone involved. He spent the next 3 months building his case. First, he had Eugene pull the inspection records for every building Riverside had purchased in other neighborhoods over the past 5 years. The pattern was obvious. Buildings got condemned. Riverside bought the land. Same inspectors every time. Thomas Whitmore, Chief Building Inspector, Manhattan Division. Leonard Corso, Structural Engineer. Martin Hayes, health and safety compliance. The same 3 men had condemned over 200 buildings in 5 years, and every single property ended up owned by Riverside Construction. Next, Bumpy had his accountant, a meticulous numbers man named Samuel Hooks, trace Riverside's ownership. It took 6 weeks of digging through shell corporations and offshore accounts, but Samuel found it. Riverside Construction was owned by Vincent Marconi, a real estate developer with ties to Tammany Hall, and Vincent Marconi's sister was married to Thomas Whitmore. The chief inspector was condemning buildings, so his brother-in-law could buy them cheap and sell them expensive. It was a family business, and they'd made millions. But Bumpy needed more than paper trails. He needed witnesses. He needed people willing to testify that the buildings weren't actually unsafe, that the inspections were fraudulent. So Bumpy hired his own engineers, legitimate professionals, licensed by the state, who owed him favors from past business dealings. He had them inspect all 42 buildings on Riverside's list before the city inspectors arrived. Every building got a clean bill of health, solid foundations, no structural issues, plumbing and electrical systems in working order. Bumpy had the engineers document everything with photographs, measurements, detailed reports. Then he locked those reports in his safe and waited. April 12th, 1949. The city inspectors arrived in Harlem exactly on schedule. Thomas Whitmore, Leonard Corso, and Martin Hayes spent 3 days walking through buildings with clipboards, taking notes, shaking their heads gravely. They talked to residents about dangerous conditions and your safety. They promised the city would relocate everyone to better housing. They lied with practiced sincerity. By April 14th, they'd completed their inspections and filed their reports. 42 buildings condemned. 600 families given 30 days to vacate. The inspectors congratulated themselves on a job well done and prepared to collect their payoffs from Riverside Construction. That's when they received a message. Bumpy Johnson requests a meeting. Tomorrow afternoon. Wells Restaurant. Come alone. Whitmore laughed when he got the message. He knew who Bumpy Johnson was. Every white official in New York knew about the gangster who ran Harlem. But Whitmore wasn't afraid. He had the law on his side, had City Hall backing him up, had done this 100 times before. What was some numbers runner going to do? Threaten him? Whitmore would just call the police and have Bumpy arrested for intimidation. But Leonard Corso was nervous. He'd heard stories about Bumpy Johnson. Stories about men who underestimated him ending up ruined. Not dead, but worse. Destroyed reputations, lost careers. Martin Hayes dismissed it. He's a criminal. We're city officials. What's he gonna do? So all 3 inspectors showed up at Wells Restaurant on April 15th, confident and smug, ready to put this Harlem gangster in his place. Bumpy was waiting at his corner table. He was alone. No bodyguards visible. Just a well-dressed man in his early 40s, sipping coffee, looking like he didn't have a care in the world. The inspector sat down. Whitmore didn't waste time with pleasantries. Mr. Johnson, I understand you wanted to discuss the recent building condemnations. I'm afraid there's nothing to discuss. The buildings are unsafe, and the decision is final. Bumpy set down his coffee cup gently. Tell me something, Mr. Whitmore. How long have you been selling Harlem to your brother-in-law? The table went silent. Whitmore's confident smile flickered. Excuse me? Vincent Marconi, Riverside Construction, your wife's brother. How long have the two of you been running this scam? Whitmore stood up. I don't have to listen to baseless accusations from a criminal. This meeting is over. Sit down, Bumpy said quietly. There was no threat in his voice, but something in his tone made Whitmore hesitate. Sit down, and I'll show you why you're going to reverse every condemnation by tomorrow morning. Whitmore sat, more out of curiosity than obedience. Bumpy opened the manila folder. He slid 3 photographs across the table. The first photo showed Whitmore and Vincent Marconi having dinner at an expensive restaurant in Greenwich Village. The timestamp showed it was taken 2 days before the Harlem inspections began. The second photo showed Corso depositing a check at Chase Manhattan Bank. The amount was visible, $10,000, from an account registered to Riverside Construction. The third photo showed Martin Hayes shaking hands with Marconi outside Riverside's office on Lexington Avenue. All 3 photos were date-stamped. All 3 showed the inspectors meeting with the developer before they'd even inspected the buildings. Bumpy let them stare at the photos. Then he pulled out more documents. Bank records showing payments from Riverside to all 3 inspectors over the past 5 years. Inspection reports that had been altered, with the original versions showing buildings were safe, and the filed versions showing condemnations. Engineer reports from Bumpy's independent inspectors proving every condemned building was structurally sound. And finally, a list of 200 properties. Every building the 3 inspectors had condemned. Every property that ended up owned by Riverside, with the purchase prices and resale values showing millions in profit. "I've got copies of everything," Bumpy said calmly. "One set is going to the New York Times. One set is going to the district attorney. One set is going to the mayor. And one set is going to every church in Harlem, so the people you're trying to displace know exactly who's stealing from them." Whitmore's face had gone from pale to gray. "You can't prove we did anything illegal." Bumpy smiled, that cold, dangerous smile that meant he'd already won. "I don't have to prove anything. The photographs, the bank records, the engineer reports, they'll prove it for me. And when the newspapers start asking questions, when the DA starts investigating, when your brother-in-law starts looking at prison time, you think he's going to protect you? You think he won't flip on you to save himself?" Leonard Corso found his voice, shaking. "What do you want?" "I told you. Reverse the condemnations. All 42 buildings. File new reports saying they're structurally sound. And then you're going to resign. All 3 of you. Quietly. Cite health reasons, family reasons, whatever. But you're done working for the city." Martin Hayes tried to sound defiant. "And if we don't?" Bumpy leaned forward. "Then I destroy you. Not with violence, with truth. Your careers end. Your reputations end. Your freedom might end depending on what the DA finds. And Vincent Marconi loses everything. Your choice, gentlemen. Walk away now, or lose everything later." The inspectors looked at each other. Whitmore's hands were shaking now. He'd built a career on this scam, made hundreds of thousands of dollars, thought he was untouchable. Now he was sitting across from a man he'd dismissed as just another Harlem criminal. And that man had dismantled his entire operation with patience, intelligence, and preparation. "We need time to think," Whitmore said weakly. "You've got until tomorrow morning," Bumpy replied. 9 o'clock. I want the new inspection reports filed. If they're not, the evidence goes public at 10. Your choice. April 16th, 1949, 9 o'clock in the morning. Eugene Porter, Bumpy's contact in the buildings department, called with the news. All 42 buildings had been cleared. New inspection reports filed. No structural issues found. The condemnations were reversed. By noon, all 3 inspectors had submitted resignation letters. Thomas Whitmore cited family obligations. Leonard Corso blamed health concerns. Martin Hayes said he was pursuing private sector opportunities. Vincent Marconi tried to sell his Riverside construction holdings quickly, quietly, but the damage was done. The newspapers got wind of the story anyway. not from Bumpy's evidence, but from other inspectors who'd been squeezed out by Whitmore's corruption and were happy to see him fall. The resulting investigation didn't lead to criminal charges. The connections went too deep. Too many politicians would be implicated. But it ended Riverside construction, ended Marconi's development empire, and most importantly, it saved 600 families from displacement. The buildings stood. The families stayed. Harlem remained Harlem. Bumpy Johnson never took credit publicly, never gave interviews, never bragged, but everyone in Harlem knew. The city had tried to steal their homes, and Bumpy had stopped it without firing a shot, without threats, just with preparation, intelligence, and the willingness to play the long game. 3 months later, a delegation of Harlem residents came to Wells' restaurant. They wanted to thank Bumpy formally, maybe throw him a celebration. Bumpy refused. "I didn't do anything special," he told them. "I just made sure people who thought they were smarter than us learned they weren't." That's what separated Bumpy Johnson from other men in his position. He understood that real power wasn't about intimidation. It was about information, preparation, and timing. He'd spent 3 months gathering evidence while corrupt officials thought they were untouchable. And when they finally sat across from him, confident and arrogant, they realized they'd already lost. The lesson echoed through New York City Hall for years. You don't try to steal from Harlem. You don't underestimate the people who live there. And you definitely don't underestimate Bumpy Johnson, because Bumpy didn't just protect his territory. He protected his people. And he did it by being smarter, more patient, and more prepared than anyone who came against him. April 15th, 1949. 3 corrupt city inspectors walked into Wells' restaurant, thinking they were untouchable. They walked out knowing they'd been outplayed by a man who saw them coming 3 months before they arrived. And 600 families kept their homes because Bumpy Johnson proved something the powerful always forget. Intelligence beats authority every single time. If this story of strategy, preparation, and protecting community moved you, hit that like button. If you're not subscribed, subscribe now, because we're dropping Bumpy Johnson's untold stories that show why he became a legend. Drop a comment and tell me, could Bumpy have handled this differently? Or was this the perfect play? Turn on notifications, because next video we're telling the story of how Bumpy Johnson walked out of Alcatraz and reclaimed his throne in 72 hours. Remember, in Harlem, respect wasn't given, it was earned. And Bumpy Johnson earned his by protecting his people when no one else would.